As we come to the last Sunday in the season after Epiphany, we sort of go right back to where we began. We entered into Epiphany with this focus on the revelation of Jesus as the Messiah, with the wise men traveling from the east in recognition of Christ's role as Redeemer of the entire world. Now, as we approach the beginning of Lent, we return again to this revelation of who Jesus really is. This time we are shown in Jesus' transfiguration, a revelation of his divine sonship, and we see what it looks like for us to come into contact with the divine. And I think there is a very particular reason why we turn to this culmination of Epiphany just before we begin Lent. And it's because what we see in encountering the divine is this universal need for mortals to prepare themselves. I never really understood this point until I went to this presentation on prehistoric archaeology a number of years ago. This presentation was put on by an Irish archaeologist named Sam Moore, who specializes in these Neolithic tombs dotted around the Irish countryside. He described to us these large earthen mounds that he studied, which were made with stones that could weigh as much as 700 tons. And within these prehistoric structures, these Neolithic humans kept the bones of their ancestors. These tombs actually served as sacred sites. They were located on the tops of mountains. That motif should sound familiar to all of us, because this was where the realm of the earth and the sky met. These acted as doorways between worlds for our ancient ancestors. And they were built with protection in mind. That's why they used these heavy 700-ton stones to build them. They wanted to create a barrier, a fence, to set apart these holy places. Even the entrances to them were specially designed to have these long, narrow tunnels into the center with multiple stone thresholds that one had to physically step over in order to move closer and closer to the heart of the tomb, where the bones of their ancestors were kept. And these prehistoric people went through all the trouble of building these tombs because they recognized that direct contact with the sacred required preparation. It needed a wrapping around it in order to be contained, in order to prevent someone from stumbling upon it accidentally or entering it unprepared. The long entrance with its various thresholds ensured that those who took the pilgrimage into its center had ritually prepared themselves for crossing over into this holy ground. We see the Hebrew people dealing with this same kind of experience of the sacred on Mount Sinai. In the book of Exodus, we see that the top of Mount Sinai has become a sacred place as God resides there in this covenant relationship with the Israelites. The people, however, feel unprepared for such a direct encounter with the divine. And so they send Moses as their representative. Moses then can act as a mediator for the people. He is prepared to climb the rest of the way up this mountain and into the holy presence of God. But of course, we see even this mediated encounter with the divine proves uncomfortable for the Hebrew people, as Moses' face now shines with a holy light. It seems his direct encounter with God has left something of the divine on his face. And so even he needs to be wrapped like those Neolithic tombs and wears a veil over his face. And this need for preparation continues even after Mount Sinai. First with the Ark of the Covenant, and then with the temple itself. You can even see this same impulse in the architecture of the cathedral here. Notice as one moves closer and closer to the altar that there are various thresholds to cross. One set of doors from outside to the tower, then more doors from the tower to the nave, and then from the nave up the stairs, through the rood screen, and past the altar rail, into the very heart of the cathedral, the sanctuary itself. Each step invites you to prepare yourself, physically and spiritually, for a direct encounter with the holy. And it's this same encounter with the holy that is at the center of what is happening in the Transfiguration. Jesus, like Moses, shines forth with a holy light. And we see here Peter, John, and James all terrified as they enter into this holy cloud, again on the top of a mountain, and as they see Jesus' own sacred divinity revealed to them. In icons of this scene, the disciples are actually physically impacted by this encounter. They're brought down to their knees and they cover their eyes. But there is also something new happening here with Jesus, something those Neolithic human ancestors, nor even the ancient Israelites, experienced. Because what we see in Jesus is this new kind of encounter between the divine and the human. In the person of Jesus, we have both divinity and humanity residing in one. And so what we discover in this encounter with Jesus is that the holy presence of God, once carefully mediated by temples and rituals of purification, is now, through Jesus, always and forever available to us all. Because now it can be encountered in a person, in Jesus Christ. Now you can actually take that sacred divinity into your very own body, right here and right now. But as the approaching season of Lent would remind us, preparation is still needed if we are going to cross all those thresholds and approach the holy with our hands outstretched. But our preparation itself has now also been transformed. It's no longer solely a matter of preparing to enter holy ground for just a brief moment. No, now our preparation is in service of being a holy people ourselves, of taking in that divine presence of Christ and then going out with it, sharing it with the world. Today, we are being given a particular example of one way to do this work of preparing and of sharing. Because today we are instituting a new chapter at the cathedral of the Daughters of the King. Through their vows of prayer, service, and evangelism, they will take on a very particular program of preparation. They will be like Moses, using this rule of life to prepare themselves for that journey, moving ever closer and closer to the heart of God. And an encounter like that will transform you. It will change you. It will bring you to your knees. It will cause you to shield your eyes. It takes work to be prepared for that. But it's an encounter that doesn't just transform you, it transforms the world through you. This is who the Daughters of the King will be for us: a witness and an example of what is possible when you decide to go to the heart of the tomb, to that place where the sacred is kept, and to bring that encounter out to the world. Today we have all, like Peter, John, and James, encountered the truth, the epiphany of who Jesus really is. You now stand at a threshold far beyond the imagination of our Neolithic ancestors in their tombs. You now stand at the very threshold of heaven and earth, of the sacred and the profane. So prepare yourself, not just for the dangers inherent in encountering the divine, but prepare yourself for your calling, your vocation, to be changed by that encounter with the divine. and to shine forth into this world with the very sacred glory of God Himself. Amen.